Welcome back to Movie Recap Factory. Today, I will talk about an action crime thriller from 2005 titled Transporter 2. Without further ado, let's get started. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The movie begins with a driver, Frank Martin, who encounters a group of carjackers in a parking lot. When Frank calmly gets out of the vehicle to avoid a mess, the thug tries to start the car, but it needs a code to function. Before they can harm Frank, he uses his combat skills to knock down everyone in sight, compelling the young girl to leave immediately. After retrieving the car, Frank heads his way to pick up Jack Billings, son of a wealthy U.S. official, Jefferson Billings, who works for the U.S. government drug control organization. Frank shares a strong bond with the little kid and often plays riddles with him. Seeing that Jack's parents are fighting at the gate, Frank drives Jack away from them so he cannot go through trauma. While Jack's mother Audrey talks with Frank, it is revealed that Audrey has been separated from her husband and often fights with him over Jack's upbringing. She is happy that Frank is helping them with Jack's transport until their ex-driver, Tony, returns. Frank claims that he was not this type of driver in France and had joined the job in someone's favor. After the conversation, Audrey requests Frank to take Jack tomorrow for his regular checkup until they arrange a surprise birthday party for him. As they talk, a man hears their conversation and informs his thug to get ready for tomorrow. On the other hand, a mercenary hired by the Colombian cartels, Gianni Cellini, buys a virus and its antidote, for which he needs Jack for an experiment. As Lola, Vasily, and Dmitri take over the clinic before Frank approaches, they call Gianni about the progress. When Jack arrives at the clinic, he is told that his doctor is on sick leave, due to which another on-duty doctor will vaccinate him. Unwilling, Jack enters the room where Dmitri is imitating a substitute doctor. Meanwhile, Frank gets a call from his French friend, Inspector Tarconi, whom he had to receive at the airport. Seeing that the doctor and the receptionist are absent together, Frank suspects a danger. After witnessing blood coming from a cupboard, Frank hangs up the phone and heads to the office to see Jack. As the goons are about to inject the virus into Jack's body, Frank approaches, compelling the two to engage in a fight, until Frank manages to escape with Jack. However, before they leave, another thug sets a bomb beneath Frank's car. As Frank reaches Jack's home, Gianni calls and informs Frank that a laser is targeted on Jack's forehead, which will result in severe consequences unless he lets Lola enter the car. Audrey can see her son being abducted before her eyes, but she can't do anything. Lola has successfully taken Jack to Gianni, while Mr. Billings has learned about his son's abduction. The police and U.S. Marshal, Mr. Stapleton, approach the Billings mansion and inform Jack's father that Frank is an ex-special force who has specialized in search and destroy. After dodging the cars and destroying the police helicopters, Lola takes Frank and Jack with her to Gianni's. Everyone, including Mr. Billings, thinks that Frank is behind Jack's kidnapping. Meanwhile, Gianni calls Mr. Billings and instructs him to put the phone on the speaker. Jeff Billings is ordered to deliver $5 million in 2 hours, otherwise his son's body parts will be sent to him in pieces every 20 minutes. Moreover, Gianni wants Billings to keep the money in a waterproof suitcase, after which he will transport the money into a blue car parked in Bayfront Park. After calling, Gianni throws the mobile into a swimming pool so they can't track them. Jack cries and screams that Frank has promised him he wouldn't let anybody hurt Jack. However, Frank is ordered to leave the place, but before he can enter the car, he witnesses the reflection of the bomb on the floor. While Gianni leaves in his boat with the remote, Frank rushes towards a wrecker and uses its hook to remove the bomb from his car. After successfully landing on the ground, Frank calls Billings to tell him that he has nothing to do with his son's abduction. When Billings bursts his anger on Frank, Mr. Stapleton takes the phone from his hands. Talking to Frank, Stapleton learns that 3 boats are heading to the north, which he has to stop. When Frank hangs up the phone without telling his location, the police find the last address and find no one but Frank's phone. On his way to rescue Jack, Frank calls Tarconi and instructs him to leave the house, but before he can step out, the police arrive and arrest him. After seeing that Tarconi has been apprehended, Frank calls Audrey and informs her that he is not involved in Jack's kidnapping. Audrey knows because she has seen Lola pointing a gun at Frank before they leave. Frank thinks the abduction is not just about ransom. The goons are hiding something about the vaccination. Promising Audrey that he will rescue Jack, Frank leaves for the hospital to find the vaccine shot that fell from the previous fight. As Frank gets the syringe in his hand, U.S. Marshal Brown points a gun at him, breaking the syringe and igniting a fight between them. After taking another needle and filling it with a saline solution of water, Frank leaves the hospital searching for Dmitri, whose picture he has saved from the CCTV footage. Meanwhile, Mr. Billings has delivered the ransom as instructed by the goons, but there's no response from their side. After a while, the police find the boy enclosed in a truck. When the robot gets fused, unlocking the van's door, Audrey cannot resist herself and risk her life for Jack. However, Jack is alright and doesn't have a single scratch on his body. On the other hand, after learning that Tarconi is a French inspector, the police start to behave better toward him. Tarconi has to stay in the police station until French authorities confirm his identification. As he is cooking for the police, he gets a call from Frank, who wants to know Dimitri's location. Using IDB's information, Frank learns that Dmitri is a Russian biologist with an advanced degree from the state laboratory. After approaching the goon's apartment, Frank begins to look for him, but he manages to escape on a bus. Frank uses a water vehicle to chase him and soon catches the thug. To learn about the previous syringe, Frank injects the water-filled syringe into Dmitri's leg so he can spit out the truth. Afraid of the outcome, Dmitri ties a belt to stop the blood flow and runs away from the bus. Following Dmitri, Frank reaches the lab where the experiment is going on. As Dmitri is busy begging for an antidote to the doctor, Frank knocks down a big thug and heads his way inside to learn more about the virus. Pointing a gun at the doctor, Frank reveals that he has injected water into Dmitri. Dmitri, who has already killed Tipoy and tortured the doctor, attacks Frank but dies in progress. When Frank inquires about the virus, the doctor claims that the virus is a recombinant, retroimmune, double polymorphic effluent which is inert after 24 hours. Seeing the gun, the doctor throws the vials outside the window, but Frank manages to recover them. It is revealed that Gianni has injected the virus into Jack's body, which has made him sick. Not only will Jack be affected by the virus, but everyone who is near his breath. Soon, Mr. Billings starts to feel ill, but he decides to leave for an important conference. Soon, Frank arrives at Audrey's room and informs her that the goons have injected a virus in Jack, only to kill every drug enforcement agency in one room, which Mr. Billings will address. As he already has the virus, everyone who breathes near him will die in 24 hours. However, Frank has an antidote that he can use to save Jack from death. As they talk, the guards attack Frank, but he manages to escape. Hearing about Gianni's plan, Audrey calls Billings to make him aware of the deadly virus. Due to a signal problem, Billings cannot understand his wife's words. Soon the virus starts showing its effect, knocking down Mr. Billings and his guards on the ground. Frank calls Tarconi and requests his help to find out more about Gianni. He was the man who was behind the hostage-taking of OPEC minters in Geneva. After learning his address, Frank rushes to look for him. Meanwhile, seeing access to the database by an employee on vacation, the police officer runs to the 15th floor to see what's happening. On the other hand, Gianni is using himself to transport it safely. Suddenly, Frank invades the house and drives to reach Gianni to get an antidote. Seeing Frank on the CCTV footage, Gianni orders his goons to prepare for protection. As the guards pull fire at Frank and the cab driver, Frank uses a shortcut to reach the garage. As he is about to kill Gianni, Frank is told that Gianni is the only antidote left to cure the virus. When Frank inquires about the reason behind the spreading of the virus, Gianni unfolds that some high-end bidders have hired him. These Colombian cocaine cartels want to get rid of pesky law enforcement officers and the US government. Before Frank can harm him, Lola arrives on time, allowing Gianni to escape. After killing Lola, Frank follows Gianni's helicopter in his car. After landing his helicopter at the airport, Gianni boards a plane. Frank uses the plane's landing gear to approach Gianni. As they fight, Gianni accidentally shoots the pilot, causing the plane to lose its balance. While the airplane flies up and down, Gianni and Frank continue to fight until the plane crashes into the sea. Being the only antidote, Gianni is rescued by Frank from drowning. As the two float on the water, police approach and save them. Soon, doctors use Gianni's antidote to treat the patients. The tragic incident reunites the Billings family, penetrating a new hope in their lives. Seeing the family happy again, Frank leaves the hospital without meeting them. The movie ends with Frank saying goodbye to Tarconi at the airport, after which he gets a call from a man who wants to hire a transporter. If you have already watched this movie, share your reviews with us in the comments below. Before you go, make sure to like this video and subscribe.